clarity as they shape thought find out, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's a business development coach helping lawyers and consultants grow their curiosity, not pitching. And of course, the author of the upcoming book, The Business Development Shift, none other than Mr. Doug Ott.
Hello there.
Welcome, Mr. Doug on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Daniel. Thank you for hosting me. I'm a business development coach and consultant. I work mostly with professionals who are trying to build relationships with clients in the professional services, whether you're an entrepreneur, a lawyer, a consultant. And I take on a different approach with my coaching and consulting, where I'm helping professionals focus on not pitching, but rather a discovery approach through intellectual curiosity. And they do it in an authentic way, so it doesn't feel like it's forced and they have to try to sell themselves, which no one likes to do.
Authentic self. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Doug. Thank you. Here on Abstract Essay, we celebrate you. So let's talk about your book itself. When I enter a conversation with a potential client, am I thinking about what I want to tell them, or am I genuinely curious about what I might learn from them?
It's all about what you can learn from them. And that's the good news. There's a lot of people who are not always comfortable talking about themselves, and you don't have to. This really is thinking about what are the client's concerns and challenges and how you might be able to help them. And when you put yourself into that mindset, it makes the conversation flow a lot easier. And so there's a lot of people who think that they have to pitch and sell when in reality, you really don't have to do that. And that's why I titled my book, The Business Development Shift. You're shifting your mindset into discovery-based conversations versus pitching.
Very well said, Mr. Doug. If I remove my credentials, title, and firm's reputation from the equation, would people still want to talk to me? And if so, why?
Can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Yes, definitely. If I remove my credentials, title, and firm's reputation from the equation, would people still want to talk to me? And if so, why?
Yeah, it's a great question. And absolutely. When you make it about them and you truly do care about what their potential needs may be, it'll resonate with them more, because too many people lead with their credentials. But if they spend most of the time talking about themselves and not enough time learning about the client and their potential needs, it could actually turn the client off. And so that's why this whole approach really can be effective both in the professional world and in the personal world.
So, Mr. Dog, am I trying to be impressive, or am I trying to be interested? And which one actually builds trust faster?
Definitely want to be interested. And too many times the human nature is that, especially if it's a large prospective client, you want to lean on the need to impress. It's a human nature, and that actually could have the adverse effect on people. They've heard this many times, and they've heard pitches from very credentialed professionals about how good they are and all the different credentials and experiences they have. But that actually doesn't always resonate with people. When you make it about them, all of a sudden now they start to care, and they'll start to be more interested in you.
Interesting, Mr. Dog. When I meet someone new, do they leave the conversation feeling heard and understood, or do they leave knowing a lot about me?
Well, it depends on how you carry the conversation. You want to lead with learning about them as much as you can and to truly show that you care. And oftentimes when you do that, the conversation will eventually flip over to you, and they'll be curious about you and the experience you may have. And when you take on that approach, what can happen is you can start talking about your credentials or experience that is related to their needs and specific interests. So when in doubt, you want to err on the side of talking more about them than you. They'll still walk away impressed by you if they really get a feeling like they've been heard and you're interested in their needs.
So what would change in my approach if I define win as a genuine connection rather than sign engagement?
One more time, please.
Yes, what would change in my approach if I define the win as a genuine connection rather than a sign engagement?
Yeah, this is it. There's a mindset going into these conversations where if you are truly a problem solver looking to help solve people's problems, you need to discuss this like you're sitting right next to the person to really understand what their problems are and to see how you can work together with this person. It's not necessarily always the right fit, but you can only find that out by asking the right questions and truly be an active listener. If you're focused on just getting the signed contract, you might miss a lot of important elements of what's really going on with the client. And they can sense that. And so you could walk away without a signed contract if you take on that approach. So it's really truly being about asking the diagnostic questions, being that problem solver, and having an active conversation. Oops, I think you're on mute, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Mr. Doug for cultivating intellectual curiosity and practice. So what are the 3 questions I can ask in every initial conversation that demonstrate a genuine interest rather than qualification?
A good opening question is, what are your concerns or what are your challenges you're facing with this year? Things change in the marketplace. And some of the concerns and challenges they may be facing with right now could be different than what they faced last year. I always encourage people to ask open-ended questions. That is, let's see what they say versus a closed-ended question, which elicits a yes or no response. And you'll be surprised at what people will say. And I encourage my clients to always do some research on these people, get a better understanding of how they run their business. And when you do that, you might come up with 2 or 3 relevant questions to ask them to open up the conversation.
Mr. Doug, when a client pushes back on pricing or scope, do I defend my position or do I get curious and ask, can you share what you are comparing these to?
Always take the latter approach. Yes, you never want to get defensive. People oftentimes, when they don't really understand the value add that you can bring to the table for this client, they'll fall back on price. And so if someone says, well, that's really expensive, my favorite response was, compared to what? What are you comparing to? And why do you find this is actually too expensive? Oftentimes people just get stuck on price and they don't understand that the services that you could offer can save them a lot of money down the road if they look at it with a broader perspective. And so you never want to defend your price. And as long as you believe that the value you're bringing to the client is well worth the investment that they're going to consider, you should never have to defend it.
Very well said, Mr. Dog. Do I know what outcomes matter most to my clients beyond the specific engagement, their goals, fears, and what keeps them up at night?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you want to understand why are they having this conversation with me in the first place? What are their big problems and what are they ultimately trying to achieve? And if you can focus and fall back on those goals, they'll start to put together and connect the dots as to why investing in your help could really help them get to reach those goals. This is one of those things where if you spend too much time focusing on the mechanics of what you do, you lose the most important part of that conversation, which is what is the client really trying to achieve and why and by when. And if you can have that conversation, and if they push back for any reason, go back to their goals. What are they trying to achieve? How are they trying to do that? Are they trying to do it on their own? Or does it make more sense to get help from someone like you?
So, Mr. Doug, am I asking what if question early enough to prevent scope creep and demonstrate foresight? Let's say, what if the board accelerate the timeline, or what if the regulatory landscape?
Well, it's important to have a very transparent conversation with the client and set realistic expectations. And so if you can ask them, my favorite two questions to ask really is, what is your timing on this engagement? And what is your budget? What are you willing to invest? And do you have flexibility if you get scope creep and the scope changes? And if it does, then you need to be able to make sure the client understands up front that, hey, if the scope changes over time, we may need to increase the budget. And are you prepared to do that? Because there's nothing worse than having a conversation where you are not transparent up front, and then you do get scope creep and they have no budget left to spend. Then you're kind of stuck. So I always encourage open communication up front before you even get started. It can make a big difference in how the relationship starts to grow.
Certainly. And Mr. Doug, when I finish a conversation with a client or contract, and of course a contact, I should say, do I have more questions than when I started, or did I do all the talking?
Well, hopefully you won't have too many more questions. I mean, it's if you have an open conversation and ask, what their timing is and what next steps are, you should have all those questions asked, but there might still be some questions that come up. So you just don't know. If the client, I mean, a lot of it is just reading the body language of the client too, and making sure that all of their questions are addressed. And if you have specific questions, don't hesitate to ask before you wrap up that conversation. You want to make sure that all the expectations are clear and that the client understands the type of engagement they're going to be going in with you, and vice versa. Because sometimes if you hold back and you hesitate, that'll come and get you later down the road. So you want to make sure you have all the questions answered if you can before the conversation's over.
Mr. Doug, let's talk about for building consistency and long-term habits.
Yeah.
Am I staying top of mind with the right people when, or even when, I don't need anything from them? And if not, why wait until I need a favor?
That's a great question. And that's a lot of what I talk about on my book is being consistent. And oftentimes clients or professionals are hesitant to reach out when they don't have a need from that particular client, or hoping that the client has a need from them. Staying in touch is so important. And I always tell consultants and lawyers, it's not always the best consultant who wins the work. It's the consultant who's best at staying top of mind. And you can do this in a very authentic way. You can spend time just learning more about their business. You can learn about their personal interests. And so you might learn that they are a big sports fan, or they are into cooking, or whatever it may be. And you could send them an article or send them a congratulations, thought of you. You could even send them what I call these quick touch points. So say, hey, thinking about you. I want to congratulate you on your move, or I want to wish you a wonderful break over the holidays. I look forward to staying in touch. And when you do a consistent job of staying in touch with these people, where you're not looking for something in return from that person, but you're genuinely just thinking about them, they'll remember you. And a lot of this in building a business is about timing. It's about being in the right place at the right time. And that simple outreach, just wishing someone a wonderful break over the holidays, or happy birthday, or congratulations on your favorite sports team doing well on a particular event, that can trigger something in the client's mind. where they might reach out and say, hey, thanks for reaching out. By the way, I might need your help with something. So consistency is everything, because a lot of professionals, they bunch it all up. They say if they're doing billable work, they don't do any business development. And when they come back up for air, they try to jam a bunch of business development efforts in, and that might be too late. And I really encourage people to invest little chunks of time in business development over a consistent level instead of doing bursts of BD, because that can make a huge difference in regularly staying at top of mind with their contacts.
Mr. Doug, what is my system for consistent, meaningful follow up through with my network, or am I relying on memory and good intentions?
I mentioned this in the book as well. It's important that people have some type of a tool. I have a proprietary tool called the relationship tracker. And it's just an Excel spreadsheet where you put all your most important contacts in an Excel spreadsheet. And I like to segregate them into different buckets. You could have as internal colleagues within your own firm. If you work for a large firm, you want to build relationships with your internal colleagues because they could be great referral sources. You can have external contacts, past clients, existing clients, prospective clients. You might even have a tab for just referral sources. And when you have a view of all these people, when you pull it up and reference this document on a regular basis, it prevents some of these important contacts from slipping through the cracks, because you see them and you say, oh, I haven't reached out to this person in a while. Let me send them a quick note. And as your network grows, that it can be more and more challenging if you don't have some type of organized system in place, whether it's a client relationship management tool or an Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is that's going to work for you. Keep it simple, but you want to reference on a regular basis, because that'll help you be more consistent in your outreach.
Very well said, Mr. Doug. If I map my outreach over the past 6 months, would it show a pattern, a genuine relationship maintenance, or transactional checking only when I want something?
Well, there's a cadence where you want to set up, I call them quick touch points and meaningful touch points, where if you have an important contact, you want to try and get in front of this person at least 2 or 3 times a year if you can. If they're across the country, set up a Zoom call or a virtual call. And then the quick touch points are just those thought of you about this particular topic. And so it shouldn't be like every 6 months you check in with someone, because that could be too long. But that can make a big difference. And once again, it's not about when you need something. It's just what you can do to help them. I'm a big believer that if you can set up a reciprocal relationship with your contacts, where you offer to help them in a way where it does not have a bill attached to it, you're going to create a really strong, trusting relationship with these people. But you need to do it on a regular basis. Even just thought of you, here's a great article, a great recipe, whatever it is, just showing these people that you care can make a big difference.
Indeed. Show your care, people, and for sure they care for you as well. For overcoming fear and building confidence, Mr. Doug, what am I afraid will happen if I reach out to someone without specific asks? And is that fear based on experience or assumption?
Well, human nature is no one likes to be rejected. The fear of rejection is a big one. No one likes to be ghosted on an email. When you send a thoughtful email to someone, they don't respond back. And I tell people that you need to be resilient in business development. This is, you're in a business. And oftentimes when you reach out to someone, they might not get back to you. And the human nature is to take this personally when it may have nothing to do with you. It's just at the time when you reached out to that person, they could be incredibly busy and they don't have time to respond back. There is an analogy I give in my coaching, which is you treat it like baseball. For anybody who understands the rules of baseball, any major league slugger who's hitting over 300 is considered an all-star slugger, which means that 70% of the time they're getting out. But that doesn't bother them. It doesn't deter them from getting up there to the plate and taking another swing, because they understand that it only takes one at-bat to have maybe that game-winning hit. And so when you can go into business development with that mindset that, hey, Not everyone's going to get back to me, and that's okay. The timing might not be right, but just stick with it. And if 3 people out of 10 return your emails, that's not bad. So being resilient, not taking it personally, sticking with it, and making sure that whenever you are more active in business development, your activity will start to beget results.
Certainly, consistency, people. Consistency is the key to success. If I stop trying to sound like an expert and start being curious instead, what would I lose and what might I gain?
Well, you use your own authentic approach. I work with a lot of introverts where people say, I'm not a gregarious person, so I can't do business development. And I say on the contrary, introverts are really good listeners typically. They like to ask questions. They don't feel like they need to put on a presentation or performance. It's just being curious about learning about them and asking questions and being a good listener. And that can be a huge advantage. I've seen, on the contrary, a lot of gregarious people who are considered to be good salespeople talk too much, and they can talk themselves out of a sale. So sometimes it's just a matter of being a good listener, asking these questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. It doesn't need to be self-serving. It needs to be about them. And we talk a lot about this in my book.
When a conversation doesn't lead to business, do I count it as a failure or as a relationship planted that may bear fruit later?
So there are 2 approaches in business development. You could be someone who's chasing opportunities, or you could be someone who is building relationships. And if you're building relationships, you may not win every opportunity, but that doesn't mean the relationship is over. It might not just be a good fit for that particular opportunity. So you can't get discouraged if you lose a particular opportunity. If you're just chasing opportunities and not thinking about building a relationship, you can get so discouraged where then you discontinue following up with that particular relationship, when in reality, that relationship could bring you some wonderful pieces of work down the road, even though you lost one just recently. So it really does come down to making sure you're focusing on building the relationship, and the opportunities will come.
Mr. Doug, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in 6th season, abstract poetry in 3rd season, and my book 1 on review in 6th season 2, comedy 101 4th season, and of course my food 101 in 6th season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101, our 5th season, science 101, sex 101, 4th season, and of course my baby podcast, a trivia 101, motivation 101, spiritual awakening 101, entrepreneurship 101, law 101, mental health 101, coaching 101, of course, Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Dog, if I committed to being consistently curious with my network for the next 6 months with no expectation of immediate return, what might change about how I show up, and what might change about how people respond to me?
You're going to be building a behavioral habit that sticks, that will pay off down the road. And that's the most important thing. It'll give you confidence. You will not be focused on the result, rather you're focused on the process. And when you can do that, you will build some meaningful relationships that will pay off down the road. Sometimes it takes a relationship over 2 or 3 years until it starts to bear fruit. But if you build these habits of being intellectually curious and build authentic relationships, you'll be incredibly successful.
Mr. Dog, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And again, I'm inviting you to be part on my book 101 review, and let's talk about, again, the business development shift. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, this book launches. Well, you can get pre-orders right now on my website at www.dougottconsulting.com/book. And it is available through Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And I'm really excited about it. It's a very content-rich book. that will give you a lot of practical tools and advice on how to be more effective in business development in your own authentic way. And so far, some of the people who have already read it have given it rave reviews, and I'm really excited about it. So I encourage you to pick up a copy when you can.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Doug Ott, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering folks like this to rise. And Mr. Doug, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you too, Daniel. It was a pleasure.
Welcome, people. See you